Hey, welcome to the Azure Functions webcast, October edition. I'm Matthew Henderson.
I'm Fabio Cavalcanti.
And today we're going to be going through things a little bit differently. We're doing kind of a recap of what's happened since the last webcast. There's been quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
We've had, 3 conferences and announced a bunch of stuff during that. So we're going to go through kind of what's new and then do an extended Q&A.
Sounds great.
So let's start with Microsoft Ignite. So Microsoft Ignite's one of our biggest conferences. Held that in Orlando end of September. Quite a few announcements this time around.
Yeah, we did announce a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so there's a nice blog post which does kind of a roll-up of all the different things that we've done, and we'll be talking through each of these. I think to start, let's go with the Cosmos DB trigger.
Sure. This is an exciting new feature that we're introducing now with Cosmos DB, which gives you the ability to actually react to changes happening in Cosmos DB within Azure Functions, just with a trigger binding. So real-time notifications, getting the functions executed as changes happen there.
Yeah, and we also have, we've had for a while, the input and output bindings as well. So you can still read and write data to Cosmos DB without actually reacting to any changes there.
Right, so this is just a new binding type, a new trigger that's being added to the family of bindings that we support for Cosmos DB.
Yeah, we actually had a really nice write-up over on the Cosmos DB blog. In fact, there's also a really nice video that Kirill Gavrilov did with Scott Hanselman. So I would definitely recommend checking that out.
Would strongly recommend that. That's a great video. He walks through a few different scenarios there and shows the bindings in action. So definitely recommend watching that video.
Cool. And so in addition to Cosmos DB trigger, there was another big announcement, one that you were very involved in, yeah?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. We've been doing a lot of work to expose to enable the cross-plat dev experience for Azure Functions. It all started with the Web Jobs SDK, migrating it all to .NET Core, .NET Standard. And we got those bits out there. We have packages published. We started migrating all of the different extensions that we have running on top of the Web Jobs SDK. And now we are finally done with the script runtime migration as well. So we have that now in preview in conjunction with the CLI. So to enable the full end-to-end local development as well as Azure hosted.
So what you're telling me is I can do everything Azure Functions for my Mac.
That is correct.
Yeah. That's really exciting, and there's kind of a lot of other capabilities that we're building on top of the 2.0 experience, right? So,
and by everything, there is a little caveat that we
true.
do have a few gaps. This is an early preview. There are gaps when compared to the functionality we exposed today in 1.0. There are also some differences. There are new features that are only available in 2.0 today. So we are really looking forward to feedback. We really want people to go out, try this out, and reach out to us to let us know what they think, what they miss when compared to 1.0, what problems they run into. But we are really excited about this new dev experience and enabling, VS Code with Mac scenarios. We're getting some really good feedback, and it's exciting to see that happen.
Yeah, and we want feedback with all of our features, but this is kind of a major overhaul. It'll change a lot of kind of how the runtime operates. So this one's something that we very much want some additional scrutiny on. So please give it a try. In fact, actually, let's show folks how to get started.
Yeah, on the blog post, and we'll be sharing those links, but on the blog post, we do have detailed instructions on how to get the local experience, how to get the local tooling installed,
right.
How to get started with the local development. But yeah, we have the portal open, so it'll be nice to show what we need to do in order to switch from 1x to 2x and start using those preview bits.
Great. So here I am. I have a function app here. So how do I go ahead and get myself started?
The platform features, we've exposed that as a first-class setting in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the function app settings,
yep.
We're going to have an option there to toggle between the version of the runtime we want to use. So we've exposed by default, you're always on 1x. But as you see here, there is a toggle that enables you to pick the beta version.
And we can see it has 2.0 stuff.
That's correct. It's worth emphasizing that this is not supported for production workloads.
Yeah.
So play with this, test this out.
And expect a few things to be.
Expect some rough edges.
Yeah.
We are constantly deploying new fixes. All the feedback that we take from GitHub, Twitter, we're incorporating into the product and make fixes as fast as we can and deploying them continuously. So rough edges, but things are improving very quickly.
Awesome. Cool. So I think the next thing we're going to talk about is something built on top of 2.0 that's near and dear to my heart, which is Microsoft Graph extensions.
That's your baby there, right?
Yeah. So this is bringing all the capabilities of Microsoft Graph into Azure Functions through bindings. And so if you aren't familiar with the Microsoft Graph, it's this really cool set of APIs that basically have all of the data, conversations, connections, insights, and things like that that you would expect from all of the Microsoft services. So things going on in Azure Active Directory, things going on in, say, Office, all that's there. And if you actually go to the Microsoft Graph website, they have this really nice Graph Explorer, which allows you to go see, basically the API console. They have a bunch of things for getting started, so you can get some sample data going. You can even actually sign in and see your own data, which is really nice for just debugging and things like that.
So you can play with that API. You can play with what's available live.
Yeah, so this gives you a really good idea of some of the APIs. But what we've done for functions is we've actually taken some of those APIs that we think are really valuable and set up a collection of extensions. And so the idea here is this isn't something that comes in the box with Azure Functions, but you can pull it in very easily. We've got support in the portal for doing that. And then you'll be able to do things like read and write data to Excel, or deal with files in OneDrive, sending an email message. And then probably the most exciting thing for me is webhooks. So there's a collection of bindings to make webhooks work, but the idea here is you can react to events that happen in the graph. So whenever you get an email in Outlook, a function can fire. Whenever somebody goes and updates a file in OneDrive, you can have a function react to that. So that gives you quite a bit of power. And so there's a lot of good material out. We've
you have a video with Scott going over a lot of those demos and a lot of those features, right?
Yeah, actually. So if you jump back to the Ignite blog post, there's a video. Hey, look, there I am. So you can go ahead and take a look at that. It gives you an idea. This also just isn't limited just to the graph as well. You may have noticed there's a token binding.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So the idea there is you can get a token to any AD resource and then make an authenticated call to it. So it's a really nice way of actually integrating with a bunch of things, but where we can specialize it a little bit further, say in the Microsoft Graph case, we've got these dedicated bindings, so you're not making those calls to go fetch and parse the data.
So it simplifies that process significantly.
Yeah, so a lot of fun with that so far. Gotten some good reactions. Again, we love feedback on this stuff, especially on what kinds of things you'd actually like to have added in the future. So if there's other bindings or other features of the graph that you want to see light up, we definitely want to hear about that.
And I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but it's worth emphasizing this is available on 2.0 only, right?
Correct. Yeah. So again, this is one of those examples of a feature that is coming with 2.0 is this ability for us to bring in some of these new bindings.
Fantastic.
So next up, App Insights.
App Insights. App Insights is finally reaching GA, which is really exciting. Brett Leonard on the team has been doing a lot of work with App Insights, and the experience there, it's just great.
I mean, this is the way to do monitoring in your functions.
Moving forward, this is the recommended way to do monitoring in functions. We understood a while back that this was one of the gaps we had. It was one of the weaknesses of functions. The monitoring story that we had wasn't great. So we invested a lot of time into App Insights integration and making sure that the App Insights out of the box experience was great. So that's finally reached GA. You can go and enable that now. We have a blog post that goes over all of the details, what's available, what that gives you, and how to enable that and start actually monitoring your functions using the new capabilities.
And you can add that to an existing function app as well.
Absolutely.
So it's not just a creation time thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what's next?
Oh, it looks like Java.
Ooh, yeah. So that wasn't at Ignite. We had another conference happening. A lot of features announced in the past 2-3 weeks now.
Yeah.
But at Java 1, we actually got to announce our Java support, and the feedback has been fantastic, if I might say. Matt was on the show last month. He talked a little bit about the auto-proc language extensibility features that we've been introducing again into 2.0. This is a 2.0 only feature. And Java is one of the languages that's actually taking advantage of this new language extensibility features. You know, we now have the ability to come in and plug in those languages a lot easier into the runtime.
Yeah, this is actually going to make it much a better experience for most of the languages that we talk about in functions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a lot of really good things in here. One of the like my favorite things about this is like this. If you're a Java developer, this feels extremely familiar. You can use all your favorite tools. Like we have Maven deploy set up. Like it's very seamless to just start getting things going in functions.
Yeah, this was done in collaboration with the Java team at Microsoft. So these are guys who are working with Java day in, day out.
They definitely
they know their stuff. The great thing is, as you mentioned, Java developers will be able to use the tools they are comfortable with to have the local development experience with Maven, Eclipse, VS Code, and local debugging, and deploy the Java functions.
That's what you mentioned. Yeah, you mentioned VS Code. Actually, there's a new extension out that helps support all that too. So lots of fun things to try out with Java.
Yeah.
And then I think, so we've done Ignite, we've done Java 1. I think next is serverless.conf, right?
That's right.
And the big news at serverless.conf was durable functions.
That's right. Really exciting feature.
Yeah.
Really fun feature. And yeah, I want to encourage everyone to, at the very least, read about durable functions, understand what it does.
This is some of like my favorite documentation we've put out for functions.
It is absolutely fantastic.
Really well done. If folks, just go into the portal, the documentation portal, so docs.microsoft.com, get into the function section. It's under concepts, durable functions, and there's all this good stuff to explain all these scenarios.
So what does it do? What is durable functions, and why would I want to look at it?
Yeah, definitely. So the best way to think about durable functions is a way of orchestrating a collection of functions. So let's say that I need to have a bunch of functions run in series. So actually chain them together. Durable functions allows me to express that in code.
Yeah, so all through code. No designer, like you actually get to express and orchestrate your functions. Chain functions do follow patterns like fan in, fan out, all expressed in code, right?
Yeah, so we have this concept of a orchestrating function, which has, it's written in C#, has this durable orchestration context, and then from that we expose things to actually call into different functions, get the results, pass them around, things like that. But chaining is just one example. I think it starts getting a lot more exciting when you start talking about things that you couldn't do, because with chaining you could have put a queue together between functions, or you could have made an API call. Those aren't elegant, but they work.
Even in those cases, though, durable functions does simplify the process significantly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just about enabling new scenarios, but also about simplifying scenarios like HTTP async calls.
Yeah.
That you could do in the past, but it took a lot of work and work that wasn't necessarily related to the business problem that you were trying to solve. Right.
Yeah, and things like fan in were always really hard as well, right? So the idea of taking a bunch of function executions and then taking their results together and triggering a single function. You could always fan out by dropping messages in multiple queues or things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of really fun scenarios in durable functions, more than we probably can cover here.
Yeah,
but
we cannot do justice in the little time that we have to talk about these. It's, as I said, I would encourage everyone to go check it out, play with the feature. It's an exciting new feature to announce.
Yeah, so it's currently in beta. Again, we're looking for lots of feedback here. And again, something that works really as part of the 2.0.
And one thing that we forgot to mention about some of the other features we've announced, all of this stuff is open source, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's all up on GitHub, durable functions, the Java worker, all of the stuff that we've discussed so far, all up on GitHub. If you have issues, you can go pick at the code. You can submit contributions.
And I think the reason we might have forgotten is because one of the nice things about functions is pretty much everything we do is open source. So even the things that you've seen in the past, a lot of the things that we've talked about in previous webcasts, that's all open source. Look for Azure Functions on GitHub. We have kind of a meta repo which links to everything else, and you can go from there to one-file issues or see how things are done, submit pull requests. Love those, and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah. And we have one last feature here that we want to talk about, and it's another one that you've been very heavily involved with.
Yeah. So for those who've known me long enough, I like security and identity stuff quite a bit.
Yeah.
I do quite a bit with some of the authentication features in app service and functions. And one of the nice, exciting things that we were able to announce actually before any of these conferences was managed service identity. So this is an Azure-wide feature. We did this in conjunction with the AD team, Azure VMs, and a couple other folks. This diagram that I'm showing on screen right now is actually meant for VMs specifically, but the concepts are more or less the same. The idea is we will take care of creating a set of credentials in Azure Active Directory and providing them to your application and making it so that your code is able to just leverage that. At no point did you have to provision a service principal. At no point did you have to update it. All this stuff happens magically in the background. And basically your interaction model with Azure MSI is to, in functions, it's basically just make a local API call and say, hey, I'd like a token to Azure Key Vault, or I'd like a token to the Azure Management APIs, and we just give that to you. And so you can assign that the service principal different roles and permissions in all these various services, but it makes it really easy to actually start working with some of these services, because in the past you'd have to create a client ID and secret or a certificate. You'd have to get that on board. There was a lot of configuration. There was a lot of work involved, and just to get that service principal and everything set up. Yeah, and you have to maintain it, right? Because those things expire. Yeah. So with managed service identity, all that just happens. So we do have a good set of documentation for just getting started. It's just simple as going to the portal and flipping a toggle.
And that's available today. That's
in preview today. And once you have that set up, to get a token, it's 3 lines of C#, like 5 of Node. So we've got some good samples to get started, but getting a token to something like Key Vault allows you to start securely managing secrets so that you're not, just having those lie around where any developer could run across them, right? So the application gets it when it needs it, and only say one person ever actually has to see the secret. In some cases, you can actually set it up so no one sees any secrets ever, which is the ideal world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, this is an app service feature, right? So all the functions customers, all functions users, they get to take advantage of that because we are luckily sitting on top of app service, so we get to inherit all of the goodness that comes from the underlying platform. But people just running on app service will be able to take advantage of this as well.
Yeah, so it's something that we'll continue to be investing in, as with all these things. We'll mention this is actually one thing that is not part of the open source because it's part of the core platform. But the idea, the actual interaction patterns are fairly simple, and we have some good samples available on GitHub as well.
Great.
And that kind of wraps it up for the main content. One thing I will point out is, especially for Ignite, there's a whole set of sessions that our team did. So you can see a lot of the talks. There's a full session catalog. If you go and look at myignite.microsoft.com, there is this full session catalog that you're able to use to search, find Azure Function sessions, watch these recordings, and kind of get an idea, about a little bit more for some of the things we talked about. So, and I think serverless conf sessions will also be going up on YouTube.
I sure hope so. Yeah, we had a lot of good content being delivered at serverless conf, so it'll be good to see those online.
Cool. And so then I guess for the rest of it, we're just going to do an extended Q&A. So we had a bunch of folks actually submit questions in the lead up to this, so thank you to them.
Yeah, really appreciate that.
And we've also been taking things from chat along the way. Keep throwing those out there, and we'll just kind of work through and get through as many as we can.
Sounds good. Should we get started with the first one here?
Yes, please do.
So what's the first question we have?
So from Pravin, will there be support for Azure AD B2C? For example, trigger a function when a new user is added, updated, etc.
So that's another good one for you in the auth space and identity space. Yeah.
Will there be? We hope so in the future. One of the things that we're doing is trying to figure out how we can expand the set of bindings that we have. Azure Event Grid is actually something we didn't talk about.
Right, but, which is a feature that was recently announced as well. We actually had support for Event Grid from day one. Yeah. Right. So when they announced Event Grid, if you missed that announcement, look for Azure Event Grid. You're going to see the blog post and what it's all about. But as we have new Azure services actually taking advantage of Event Grid and sending events to Event Grid, we just automatically start supporting those. So that's something else that would give you the same capability here. So as you make changes to Azure AD B2C, you would get the message, you get that event in Event Grid, and you'll be able to consume those automatically, even if there isn't a binding for integration specifically for AD B2C, right?
Yeah, and so I think that's sort of the spectrum, right? Is we want to start by kind of getting, so our goal is to be able to react to all kinds of events in Azure, and that means getting folks using Event Grid, plumbing events, and then we have sort of a generic way of reacting to those, and that's all very helpful. Yes. And then we can build more specific bindings on top of that, and we're kind of doing this, sort of on a customer scenario basis. So if there are things that you particularly want to, be reacting to, like, please let us know. Also, let the teams know that support those features. Like in this example, like reach out to the B2C team and say, hey, I really want to be able to start reacting to this type of event. Encourage them to play with Event Grid and things like that. And then stuff like Functions lights up, and a lot of other services can leverage that as well. So that's something we're definitely going to be looking at, is sort of expanding that set. But
yeah, with all of the extensibility features that we're introducing into 2.0, that really enable some really interesting scenarios where both teams within Microsoft as well as people outside of Microsoft could contribute to bindings, right?
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that Event Grid supports custom events. So anything in your application can suddenly trigger the function.
So you don't even have to go down the custom binding path.
No.
You can just leverage the existing binding and just submit those new events, and you'll be able to handle that from your functions.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I hope that answers the first question, Sandy. Yep. Thanks for sending that over. We have a few more questions here from .NET Miami. First one is, any plans to support a middleware pipeline that we could plug into? And the short answer to that is yes. We do have those plans. We have actually done some of this work already. Mm-hmm. So that feature is already available today in the WebJobs SDK, which is what Functions builds on top of. So if you're using the WebJobs SDK, you can use this new feature called filters, invocation filters. If you go to the GitHub repo on the wiki, we actually have some documentation on how invocation filters work, how you can write a filter, and how you can actually attribute a function so that it uses your filters. We have some limited support for that in Functions today. We inherit some of the support that is available in the WebJobs SDK. So if you do use the precompiled model with the attributes, so essentially if you're using the Visual Studio tooling the out-of-the-box experience, you can leverage those WebJobs capabilities. So you can apply filters to functions when you follow that flow. We plan to enrich the capability in Functions and expose that to other languages as well. So that's still coming. We don't have any ETA on that, but yeah, the answer is yes. We do intend to expose that invocation pipeline, so you can plug into that, similar to the middleware pattern that you would find in other products. But some of that capability is already there today, so you can actually start using that.
So yeah, I think that we'll definitely be expanding on that. I think there are also some discussions on the GitHub that you can go contribute to if you have questions or things like that.
Right. The initial implementation exposes some of the features that we want to expose for filters. If you want to influence what happens with filters, please join the discussion. Provide some feedback. We would love to make sure the features is exposed in a way that addresses customer needs. So the more feedback we get, the better.
Yep. So next question, also from .NET Miami. Any plans to make the function visualizer a built-in feature? So function visualizer is something I think we actually showed on a previous webcast, right?
I think so, yes.
So, and the short answer to this is, well, no immediate plans, but if this is something that folks really like, definitely want to hear about that. We actually haven't seen, but but so much discussion around that feature. It is fully open source, available on GitHub.
Yeah, it is open source. It was a hackathon project, I believe. Started out as something that was worked on as a side project, and it is open source. So if you like it, you can contribute to it. I don't think we have any plans to expose that as part of a built-in experience in the portal today. But if there is enough demand for it, we'll definitely investigate, and we want to cater to customer needs. So
yeah, I mean, just keep that conversation going. Definitely, if there's issues with it, feel free to file them on the repo. Let us know what kinds of things you're using this for, what kinds of things need improvement. If there's good buzz around this feature, then yeah, we'll definitely take a look at bringing it into full-fledged as the portal. So
the next question, again from .NET Miami, just really appreciate all the questions. When can we expect to see Python support land? So this is a good question. We do have some support for Python. It is an experimental language today in 1X.
Exactly. So it's not in the 2.0 preview.
It's not in the 2.0 preview. So a lot of the experimental languages, as we ported things over to 2.0, we felt we had an opportunity to do things better. We're exposing the language extensibility features that I've mentioned earlier, which is what Java is using.
Yep.
And the idea is that as we bring new languages back onto the runtime, they will take advantage of this new capability, which would allow us to expose those languages in a much more robust way than the way that they work today. So we have some non-limitations with Python today.
Yep.
And that's why we decided not to carry the same model forward onto 2.0. So a lot of the experimental languages you see in 1X today, we decided to remove them from 2.0, not carry the same model. That doesn't mean that the language is not going to make its way back.
Right.
It just means that it's not part of the 2.0 implementation at this point.
Yep. So yeah, great question. We definitely hear quite a bit about that actually. So
yeah, there is a lot of demand for Python.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that we're going to be looking into. And it's one of those things that we do get a lot of community contribution for languages like this. And with the new model that we have, we just enable more of that community engagement. So hopefully we'll see Python support that it's not just a check mark, right? That is something that it's actually catering to customers' needs when they're using their language of choice in Azure Functions.
Yep. So next question is about, is there any plan for in-browser debugging? That comes from Mimit.
No plans right now. We did some work to enhance the development experience in the portal. Some of those features have not made their way into the release product yet. Things like IntelliSense. We have a prototype of that working using OmniSharp with help from those guys.
And there's a better structured logging support as well, right?
Which enables some interesting scenarios as well for diagnostics. So the short answer is not at this point. We haven't invested a lot of time into looking into actual debugging in the portal. What we would encourage you to do is our debugging experience that we have been investing very heavily into is the local experience at this point. So definitely go down that path. But if there is enough demand, perhaps this is something we would invest time in.
Definitely.
Another question here from Marcus. When using the Visual Studio Azure Functions project, deploying local settings JSON is a manual process using the portal, and he plans to change this. So we have plans to enhance that process. We do have the ability for you to publish those settings using the CLI.
Right.
So using the CLI, we actually have the ability to publish your local files and settings. There's actually a flag that will enable you to deploy and publish the settings only if you wish to do so. But we do understand that this is a gap. A lot of people run into trouble with this when they're publishing from VS. So we do have plans to enhance this experience here.
And you can also pull settings from the hosted version as well, right?
That is correct.
So
yes.
Get it going both ways. So the next one comes from Dan. Speaking of local development, if I want to develop locally, I need to get all the files set up just right. What do you recommend, the Azure Web UI or the Azure CLI tools?
My recommendation would really be for this particular scenario, if you want to develop locally and have the best local experience, the CLI will definitely be the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, we make it so that you can kind of switch between the two.
Right.
But generally speaking, like if you know you're going to be going, with the web view for a while, then yeah, start in web. But if you are going to be doing local, if you're going to be checking into like a source control, doing something with a CI/CD pipeline, yeah, starting with the Azure CLI tools is a great way to go.
And we do strive to make the experience and transition in between the two as smooth as possible. But the CLI will get you started. You can initialize your local environment using the CLI. You can create functions using the templates, and it gives you a lot of the options you will need to have that local debugging experience, without having to change settings yourself, to set up your environment yourself. It does a lot of the legwork for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of the same things about setting up templates and all that stuff that you find in the portal. So it's a great tool. Let's see, where were we? Okay.
Another question from Dan.
Look at that.
Yeah. So he asks, what's the future for Node.js in Azure Functions? The default version of Node.js being 6.5, maybe now 8.0. Any more utilities, tools? And the answer to that is actually, yeah. There are some changes coming with 2.0 for Node. Node is actually being changed. We're changing the process there. We're changing the model that execution and how the worker runs for Node.
It's very similar to what we've done for Java and what we're talking about doing for Python and things like that.
It sits on top of the exact same infrastructure. So we're using the language extensibility features to expose Node support as part of functions as well, which will give you new features like the ability to choose the version of Node that you're running on, which was something that we didn't have the ability to do before. Also, the ability to run native modules, which was another limitation that we had with Azure Functions, and we'll be able to overcome with a 2.0 using this new model.
And so aside from the fact that you get these new capabilities, it shouldn't be much of a change. Like, it should be fairly silent. If you go and try and work with Node still feel very much the same, but now you've got these new options which allow you to customize things further.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're running out of time here, but there is one more question I want to get to. It's Mikhail's question, so we cannot ignore that question.
Of course.
Mikhail, he's one of our top contributors on Stack Overflow, answering lots of questions, helping the team out. Very active on Twitter, putting samples out. He does just a tremendous job. Follow Mikhail on Twitter, and he always has some good content when it comes to Azure Functions and F#. He's been doing a lot of work with F# and functions as well. And he asks, what's the future for Azure Functions and F#? Runtime on .NET, runtime 2.0 on .NET Standard with precompiled F# lib, WebJobs attributes, and ETA. So the intention is to have full F# support from day one with the 2.0 runtime. We get to share a lot of the same common infrastructure that we have with C# and .NET in general. The support for precompiled F# libraries with WebJobs attributes, so the attributed model that we expose in C#.
So what I would see in the Visual Studio.
That's right. Is technically already there for F# as well. It's something you can use. We just don't have the same level of tooling support that we have for C#. So that's where the gap is. We need to make some investments in tooling. We need to reach out to the F# team so we can get some collaboration going there to make sure that the experience is on par with what we have for C#. But it's technically already possible. We do have some enhancements coming for F#. There are some known issues with 2.0 at this point that we are addressing. But the idea is that support for F# will be there from day one in 2.0.
Cool. So we do have a bunch of other questions that I guess we're not going to be able to get to. But if we didn't answer your question, if you brought something up in chat or things like that, or just if anything comes up in the future, feel free to always reach out to the Azure Functions Twitter handle. That's a great way of engaging with the team.
Absolutely.
And we certainly have a lot of folks very active on things like Stack Overflow, and of course, as we were talking about earlier, the GitHub repositories. So these are all great ways to engage with the team. We're definitely glad to answer those questions, and let us know what you also think about this format, and whether or not you would like more like this in the webcasts in the future, or let's go back to the old style.
And the next one is next month on the 16th, right?
The 16th, yeah, I think that sounds right. So that's about it, I guess.
That's it.
Yeah, we'll see you all again.
A lot of stuff, a lot of content.
Yeah,
go play with functions and provide some feedback.
And we'll see you again on the 16th.
Thank you.